Oh yeah, it's that time of year again. It's April Fool's, so you know what that means. It's time to review more My Little Pony Friendship is Magic content. Last year I reviewed every single episode of the series. That's right, I reviewed more than 200 episodes and the video ended up being over 3 hours long. So if you're interested in watching it, then I'll leave a link to it down below.
Lucky star!
Anyway, this year I had two ideas on what to do for April Fools. I could either review the two Friendship is Magic films, or I could review the entire Equestria Girls series instead. However, if you go to my channel, you'll see that I decided to upload another video besides this one. That's right, this year for April Fools, I'm reviewing both the films as well as all of the Equestria Girls films, specials, and episodes. Now, I originally planned to make just one video reviewing all of them, but there was a small problem. That being, I couldn't come up with a title that sounded good or wasn't overly long as well. I thought of something along the lines of reviewing the My Little Pony films plus Equestria Girls. There was also Equestria Girls versus the My Little Pony films, but that didn't sit right with me either. So yeah, because of that, I decided to just make two separate videos. Anyway, as for this video, I'll be reviewing the 2017 film as well as Rainbow Road Trip. Now, while I was watching the series for my ranking video last year, I did rewatch the 2017 film and also watched Rainbow Road Trip for the first time too. I did not care for them, especially Rainbow Road Trip, and because it's been less than a year since I watched them both, I don't expect my opinions to change either. But either way, let's begin with My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, the movie.
Let's put a smile on that face.
It's my movie, my movie.
Alright, so I'm a bit unbiased towards this film. When it came out in 2017, I wasn't that interested in the series anymore, but I still thought it'd be fun to watch it in theaters, which is what I ended up doing. I drove to my local theater, walked inside by myself, and asked for one ticket to the My Little Pony movie. The cashier lady looked at me and was very confused, but she gave me a ticket anyway. I walked into the theater and it was filled with mothers and their daughters. There wasn't a single dude there, not even a father, and definitely not even another brony like myself. So yes, I sat down next to a bunch of little girls and mothers for over an hour and a half, and it was the most uncomfortable experience I've ever had in a theater. That being said, I still sat through and watched the entire film. Was it worth it?
No, it wasn't.
I was definitely disappointed with it, but overall I remember thinking it was fine. Now, that's not where the story ends though. Once I drove home, I got onto my computer and went on to watch cartoons online because I was watching something on there right before I left. I refreshed the page and Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne. I wanted to scream at the top of my lungs. Right there on the recently added page, the literal newest thing that just got put onto the site was the My Little Pony movie. And no, this wasn't some camera recording or 480p rip either. No, this was the entire movie in crystal clear 1080p running and looking super smooth. That's right, if I had just waited a few hours later, I not only could have saved $10 on a ticket, but also my dignity as well. And that's also coming from the guy who goes out in public dressed like this. But yeah, as you can see, my first experience with the film was not a good one. That being said, that experience didn't affect my enjoyment of the film the last two times I watched it. During my last two watches, I went into it with an open mind and just wanted to enjoy it. However, despite that, I still couldn't, and overall the film ended up being pretty mediocre. The biggest reason for this is its story, which is very basic and generic. So all the ponies are having a celebration in Equestria, but then
I don't think those are storm clouds.
a pony named Tempest who works for the evil Storm King comes and turns all the ponies into stone. The main six along with Spike escape and they go on a journey to find help from outside Equestria. They go to various places, make some new friends, and then come back to stop the Storm King. If you think that sounds extremely basic and generic, that's because it is. I know I'm leaving some stuff out, but for the most part, this is the film's main plot, and unfortunately, it kinda sucks. Now, simple doesn't necessarily mean bad. You can have a very simple story that's filled with great characters, locations, jokes, etc. However, the thing is, the film doesn't have any of these. The first place the ponies go to is some desert town, which isn't very interesting or exciting. We've already seen desert locations in the show before, but at least a lot of the background characters here look distinct and different. Also, we get introduced to Caper, who's by far the best new character the film has to offer. He's a sly cat that likes messing with people, and he's fun to watch. It would have been cool if we got to see him in at least one episode in season 8 or 9, but that never happened. Anyway, the next place they go to is a pirate ship filled with anthropomorphic birds. The whole pirate ship theme is kind of cool, I guess, but honestly, the only thing I was thinking of during the scene was how much porn there was of the captain.
You what?
Anyway, the last place the ponies go to is Equestria, which is filled with these seahorses that used to be pony Peter Griffin things. The concept is really good, but that's about it. My main problem with all three of these scenes is that none of them get enough time to develop their location and characters. This is weird to say since the film is more than an hour and a half long. Each scene lasts for about 10 minutes, which sounds short. However, it's even worse since there's a 2-minute song in each of them. And as for the songs, they're fine, I guess. I think I already said this in my pony ranking video, but I'm not a big fan of the music in the show. There are some bangers in the series, especially in the early seasons, but for the most part, I'm not too thrilled whenever a character starts singing. Anyway, the songs are either forgettable or decent. They're short, they get the job done, but I don't think we needed as many as we got. Maybe if some of them were more catchy and memorable, then I wouldn't mind getting a song every 15 minutes or so.
I'm the one Tempest wants. I'm the last princess. You're also the only one who doesn't trust her friends. You not know that sucking my dick is a serious offense? Fuck you!
And with that, we get to by far the worst part of the movie. So when everyone is in Equestria, they find out that there's this magic testicle that turns the Peter Griffin ponies into seahorse thingies. Twilight asks them if they could use it to defeat the Storm King, but she gets
denied.
After that, everyone sings a dumb song, and Twilight tries stealing the nutsack, which results in her and everyone getting thrown out. I know Twilight cares for her kingdom in Celestia and all, but I really can't see her doing something like this. It feels really forced and somewhat out of character for her. There's an argument to be made for her believably doing this, but this still feels forced and dumb in the end. Not only that, but this film also has the awful cliche trope of its characters, or in this case Twilight, splitting from everyone since they got into an argument. It's really dumb, and I can't stand it. It's bad enough that everything before this was super generic, but to include this shitty trope as well just puts a bad taste in my mouth. The last act is probably the strongest or second strongest part of the film besides the first act. We see Tempest pass, the Storm King finally gets some screen time, and there's some other fun moments in it too. But even at its strongest, the film is still just
Okay.
I've complained about the film's story, but I'm also disappointed with its jokes too. As a comedy, the film is a bit weak. It's nothing bad or painfully unfunny, but I was expecting to get more laughs out of it. There's a decent amount of jokes that are just alright, along with a couple great ones. It's not a major problem, but it's still disappointing enough where I feel like complaining about it.
Welcome, my little ponies.
He said it! He said it!
As for its characters, most of them are pretty forgettable. Caper I like, Tempest is alright, and that's about it. The anthropomorphic birds and the sea Peter Griffins I don't give a single shit for. Besides Tempest, there's two other antagonists in the film. One of them is Grubber, who's this obnoxious, unfunny little turd that I want to throw into the sun. Then there's obviously the biggest and most threatening villain, which is the Storm King, who's pretty disappointing. He's basically a watered-down T-Rex that isn't as serious and acts a bit silly while taking over the world. On paper, he sounds like a fun character, and he sort of is. However, my issue with him is that we barely get to see him. Throughout the movie, he's built up as this super threatening and serious villain, which he sort of is, but also isn't. Now, the thing is, I like the idea of building him up as this super serious threat just to find out that he's sort of a silly guy. However, the film kind of fucks this up by introducing him around 20 minutes in, revealing just the kind of guy he is. Now, I'd be fine with this, but the thing is, his next appearance isn't until nearly an entire hour later. For a majority of the film, he does nothing and we don't even get to see him. In the first act, he's on screen for about a minute. Then an hour later, he gets 10 minutes of screen time and then dies. Would it really have hurt to put him in a few short or even just one scene somewhere in the middle of the film? It's just really bizarre going more than half the film's runtime without seeing the main villain at all. And like I said, I do enjoy him when he's on screen because he does have some good moments.
It's the magic of...
Yeah. Friendship and flowers and ponies and blue.
Unfortunately, we don't see enough of him, which is why he ends up being one of the weakest mainline villains in the series. Anyway, I've complained about the characters not getting enough screen time, but there's characters that weren't even in the film at all. One of the biggest characters that's missing is Starlight, and even Trixie to a certain extent. Now, I understand that this film was in development for quite a long time, so I'm guessing that the script was already written before they decided to make Starlight a mainline character like she is in season 6 and onwards. However, one I can't ignore is the absence of the Legend 27 himself, Daddy Discord. Where is he and why wasn't he in this movie? Was he not in it because he'd easily defeat the Storm King? If so, then that's pretty stupid. The thing is, I don't mind Discord not being in the film. However, they at least need to mention the reason why he's not here, since again, he would most likely be able to stop the Storm King and Tempest easily. I even would have been fine if he showed up at the very end during the party and said he was busy sleeping or something stupid like that. I'm bothered by this because it's such an easy and quick thing to add in, even if the script was already written before the season 4 finale. But yeah, I've been complaining about the film this entire time, so I guess I'll talk about the one thing I really like about it, that being its animation and art style, which is great. The color palette is solid, lighting is good, character expressions are great, and the animation is very fluid. I'm genuinely shocked by how great this film looks, but even so, despite the film looking great, it's held back by its generic story along with its mostly weak and forgettable characters. I can see if people like it, but I can also see if people don't like it. I just can't see people having strong feelings towards it. Besides its animation and art style, there's nothing great here, but there also isn't anything offensive either. It's overall mediocre, but still somewhat watchable, which is why I'm giving it a 5 out of 10. Well, that was the 2017 film, so now it's time to take a look at Rainbow Road Trip. As mentioned, I watched it earlier last year and I hated it, so I doubt my opinion is going to change.
Taste the rainbow, motherfucker!
Surprisingly, Rainbow Road Trip was not as bad as I remembered it being, although it's still bad. So Rainbow Dash gets a letter from a town called Hope Hololive asking her to be the guest of honor at some festival. The main 6 go there, but find out that the entire town is kind of a shithole and more importantly lacks color. And because the main 6 are racist and hate the color gray, they decide to help bring color back to the town of Hololive. Now for the most part, there's nothing really wrong with the film up to this point. There's some decent jokes and the town as well as its people lacking any color is somewhat interesting. After watching the first 25-ish minutes, I thought maybe I was way too harsh on the film before, but after the mayor explains how the town lost its color due to him screwing up an invention, I just lost interest completely. The rest of the film has the main 6 go around helping others, and it's really boring. Rarity helps someone make dresses, Applejack helps someone fix a billboard, and Fluttershy and Pinkie help some ponies befriend each other. I don't care for any of the characters since none of them get much screen time, plus there's too many of them too. Maybe if the film was longer, then these characters would have gotten more attention and would have been more developed and interesting too. But because the film is only an hour long, there's no time to be invested in any of them. Everyone's scenes are super simple, short, and again, boring. For example, Rainbow Dash helps 2 of her fans train to become better flyers. They're both sort of crappy at flying and they get mad at each other since they don't seem to be improving. So Dash trains them and a couple hours later they get better at flying and that's really it. They trained with Dash, they got better at flying, and now they aren't mad at each other anymore since they're better at flying.
She sounds just like we always imagined she'd sound. Only
20% cooler?
There's really not much going on here. The characters didn't learn anything, which is why these scenes, as well as everyone else's, feel so weird and confusing. Applejack spends some time with the pony, who's sort of a bitch. She tells Cranky Wanky that she noticed how hard she worked on fixing her balloon. Cranky Wanky then says, "Oh, thank you for noticing," and that's her entire arc. That's literally all it took for her to change and be happy, which is kinda funny, but also really weird too. For the rest of the film, she's completely different and is now happy. The same goes for Rarity, who goes into a shop and notices that someone has been copying and slightly changing her dress designs. Rarity tells Dressy Messy that she should make her own work, and she also agrees to help her too. Later on, Dressy Messy makes her own unique designs, and that's it. Rarity told her to do something, she agreed to it, and that's her entire story.
That's it?
Finally, there's Fluttershy and Pinky, who help out a baker. The baker ran out of business and also has no good apricots to make a good tasty pie. So Pinky and Fluttershy tell him to ask his neighbor if he can use his apricots since they're big and juicy. His neighbor says yes, the baker makes a lot of pies, and then...
That's pretty good.
Then the baker goes around giving away his pies, and that's it. At the very least, the characters learn something, which is that sharing and helping each other is good. But like I said before, this is still extremely simple and generic, which is my problem with the second half of the film. This part is longer than all the others, but again, there's just not enough time to get invested in characters in a story that is so generic and standard.
Taste the rainbow, motherfucker!
It turns out the mayor's invention didn't take away color from the town, but instead it disappeared because ponies just stopped caring, I think. They stopped talking to each other, some moved away, and the town somehow turned into a shithole because of this. It's really dumb and is also why the ending feels underwhelming. Oh look, it wasn't the generator that ruined the town, it was friendship that ruined it. Now that everyone is becoming friendly again, the town's colors are returning because, you know, friendship is magic. Yay. In my Equestria Girls retrospective that also came out alongside this, I complained about the fourth movie being boring. The main reason for that was because there wasn't really a villain until the last act, plus the stakes were pretty low too. That being said, you don't need a villain as well as high stakes for a story to be good. There are plenty of episodes in the series that are good that lack high stakes as well as villains. This film lacks both of them, but ends up being weak mainly for being generic, forgettable, and lackluster. Now besides the first 25 minutes being watchable, was there anything else I liked about the film?
Yes.
Although minor, it was surprising to see Spike not be in the film besides the first 3 minutes. As I've said in my pony ranking video, I'm not a big fan of Spike, especially in the first half of the series, so I didn't mind his absence. As mentioned, the film is exactly an hour long. It's short and not nearly as long as the 2017 film. So even though I don't like it, at least I was only bored for about 30 minutes instead of a whole hour. Finally, there's its art, which is pretty good since its style and character designs are reused from the 2017 film. It might not look as visually impressive as the 2017 film, but that's because this only aired on TV, so its budget was probably notably lower. The character designs are still great, and the color design is good too. The main six are so bright and colorful in contrast to all the gray backgrounds. Also, we see Big Mac's long-lost brother.
What the fuck is that?
Anyway, that was Rainbow Road Trip, and it was not good. The first half isn't so bad, but the second half is a chore to sit through. It's exactly an hour, so it's not long, but then again, if it was longer, then maybe the film could have been decent. But as for what Rainbow Road Trip is, it's visually nice, although very forgettable and bland. I do not recommend Alvin and the Chipmunks Road Trip, which is why I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Well, that's going to do it for this video. If you liked it, you can leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, or even support me on Patreon. Link down below. Also, as mentioned, this is one of the 2 videos that aired for 2024 April Fools. If you want to watch my other video, then you can watch it by using the link in the description. Anyway, be sure to subscribe for my 7-hour-long review of the greatest anime and manga of all time, Heaven's Lost Property, because that'll be out eventually.